The Houston Ship Channel contains a port that constantly has ships transporting goods into and out of the ship canal. The transportation of cargo by ships began in 1914 and the industry has grown since then. Over the years, consumption rate would increase, and to meet the demands, more cargo ships were created to carry more imports. Thus, the dredging of the ship channel would come along to deepen and widen the Houston Ship Channel. This is significant for a thriving industry since a larger channel means larger ships for more imports and exports. Dredging occurs by sending a ship into the canal of where the cargo ships sail through. Once in this area, the ship will begin digging through these rivers, deepening and widening the canal for more efficient mobility of the cargo ships. The dredged material collected from the bottom would be transformed into sludge and was at first displaced on the side of the canal. Eventually, over the time, it was realized that there must be an alternative solution simply because the sediments dug up actually contained harmful chemical contents.
Since the opening of the Houston Ship Channel in 1914, dredging operations have been occurring for the expansion and maintenance of the ship channel. When dredging materials along the ship channel, the contents in the dredged material can vary depending on what area the material comes from. These compounds can come from ship traffic, illegal dumping from nearby plants, or even just runoff. Locations along the ship channel can see a variety of chemical components in its sediments. Testing was done in 2010 on ship channel sediments in areas that have been dredged, as well as areas that have not been dredged. 2,3,7,8 tetrachlorinated dibenzo-p-dioxin, or TCDD, and 2,3,7,8 tetrachlorinated benzofuran, or TCDF, were tested for, as well as two different isotope ratios, 7 beryllium and 137 cesium, and 7 beryllium and 210 lead. It was seen in the test results that the isotope fallout ratios were seen in higher quantities in the dredged sediments versus the undredged sediments. Also, in areas that were closer to the San Jacinto waste pits, the levels of the dioxins were significantly higher. Undredged sediments had higher contents of the dioxins, but not by much when compared to the dredged areas. The bottom sediments in the ship channel seem to be a reservoir for dioxins. The dredging might take some of the dioxins away, but there will still be dioxins left in the ship channel. More research needs to be done on the sources of these dioxins, as well as proper disposal of the dredged material to make sure that highly contaminated specimens are not being used in areas where wildlife will be affected.
Previous solutions for taking care of the dredging material would be to simply throw it on the side of the ship channels. Though many of the workers of dredging believed this was a useful method, the dredging material actually destroyed many oyster beds and covered plants that fish would feed on, and ultimately sent the dredging material back to the bottom of the ship channel. Many industries and scientists have known how dredging can stir up several chemical contents into the riverbeds once more. These industries have come up with their first solution to solve this issue with the dredging material. One solution has been developed so that dredging can continue for the Houston Ship Channel while giving back to the loss of the ecosystem. This solution calls for creating new marshlands from the dredging material. These marshlands created could preserve a new environment for the new wildlife to enter while enhancing the fishery at bay. This is a method that is better not only in the sense of restoring life in these marshlands, but that they will also store carbon dioxide into the soil, which would add to attempts of stopping climate change. One other alternative solution that has been brought up as a discussion is to place the dredging material into the deeper end of the ocean, away from all shores. The reason this was suggested is because although creating marshlands from dredging material appears to be an ultimate recycling method, the chemical contents are still inside the dredging material. If a method was developed to either create longer pipes to find a place to dump the dredging material into the middle of the ocean, then the contents would be diluted. This is because the dredging material would be smaller in comparison to the size of the ocean. As they say, the solution to pollution is dilution.
My name's Dr. Alex Barnard. I'm a marine geologist by training, and I specialise in hydrocarbons in the water column, coming from the seafloor, and sort of gas hydrate processes that we see that are associated. Yes, so dredging is where we take sediments from either the bayous we have here or from the seafloor and move them to another place, usually using pumps. For example, on the local bayou here, dredging has been used historically to enable access by ships, so it's a good way to deepen the channel. In the ship channel, which is about 6 miles to the east of here, we have an active dredging campaign that goes on annually to make sure that there's clearance for vessels to pass through. Actually, one of the measurements of the water depth is the depth to the sort of muddy seafloor, and so we use that so that ships that have a deep keel are able to navigate the channel safely. Yes, so dredging, when we dredge, we remove sediment from underneath the water. Those sediments typically contain anything that has ran off the land or that is part of the normal ocean system. So as far as runoff from the land goes, depending on how deep we go into the sediment, so we can have a variety of different things in there. I mean, so potentially the potential is there for anything that's run off land to be in the sediments, and historically maybe there's been less environmental protection than there is today, so those things could be important. So I think when we're talking about dredging, we're talking about its environmental impacts. Although we're stirring up sediment, and obviously that has some of that sediment has things in it that were historically preserved sort of within the sediment and now have been sort of brought back into the water column. We can think about the settling times through the water column, and also sort of how many recreational water users there are. In the shipping channel, there really aren't that many people swimming, there aren't many people using the shipping channel recreationally, so you would expect the sort of environmental impacts in that region, at least locally, to be fairly minimised, and for materials that were sort of brought into suspension or solution to be carried out and mixed fairly readily. Obviously there are questions that might be raised about sort of gases getting into the atmosphere, but I believe that the concentrations would be fairly low, and again mixing processes should be dominant. So. So dredge materials used for a wide variety of things right now. I think presently we're taking dredge material from the Houston Ship Channel and using it to rebuild the beaches on Galveston. And so there's a variety of different places and means places that we can use that material. I mean, marshlands are good because we're using sediment that's potentially contaminated, and if we have data if data exists of the contaminants, and we can start to focus on some kind of remediation. We can potentially mitigate any harmful effects. So really, the key there is sort of having data. If we're talking about contamination, we're talking about pollutants, we need to have sediment cores, we need to have a lot of data, we need to have geochemical analyses of the water column, of the sediment pile, not just from today but historically too, so we can go down through the sediment to read previous years' chemistry. And so that will give us an idea of what's happened and whether we need any sort of potential changes to be made in our management approach. So I think that with dredging, I think if we're talking about dredging as something harmful, if that is, but before we go to dredging being harmful, we should consider like what its impacts are. So the first thing is we need data. We need to cover the bayou, the ship channel. We need we need chemical information to be recovered that tells us about any potential contamination or pollution that's there. And then once we understand what's there, we can potentially sort of take steps to deal with it in appropriate ways. We have very good technology these days. We're able to sort of remediate and mitigate these things, but the first step of all of that is just knowing what's present, and then from there we should be able to.
Since these solutions may not be the best of all solutions, we have worked on some alternative solutions that could be better. A solution that we have come up with is to use solar-powered cargo planes to transport the trade goods instead of relying on ships. These solar-powered planes do not require fossil fuels to deliver goods from one country to another, which can not only help with the air pollution, but can also reduce the need for larger cargo ships. There will be no longer a need to dredge the Houston Ship Channel for these larger ships if we use this new clean plane. But with every solution comes its drawbacks. For solar-powered planes to be implemented, airstrips will be needed to store these aircrafts, and not every country will have an airfield right next to a port. There is also a problem with current prototypes where it can only achieve a max speed of 45 miles per hour. As of now, these planes may not be able to meet with current demands of trade goods that Houston requires, but with further research and development, then maybe one day these planes can be used as a possible alternative. There is a possible alternative fuel for these cargo planes, and that is the use of military-spec biofuels instead of solar power. This kind of fuel will help with the problems that solar-powered planes have now, while further research is being done to help improve the efficiency of solar-powered planes for later use. Another possible solution to help reduce the need for dredging is to use helicopters as a short-distance cargo carrier. Houston can still use ships to import and export goods, but instead of going through the ship channel, these ships can dock at the ports near the coast. Helicopters will then lift the cargo off the ships and deliver the cargo to shipping depots. These helicopters can also be battery powered to help reduce carbon emissions, but there will be a need for charging stations within the port. The use of helicopters will only require helipads instead of large airstrips, and these helipads can be placed on top of current buildings near the ship channel.
So we're here at Allen's Landing. So we're the Allen brothers first founded Houston in 1836, 1837, and the site of the first port of Houston. So during that time you would imagine this channel was relatively clear, and the port of Houston in 1914 moved 6 miles to the east. And nowadays we have dredging from that region further down channel towards Galveston.